I mean, just knowing that this app could potentially even just make one person's life easier, that was enough for me. I mean, when I first like released the app publicly, my original goal was 100 users, and now the app has almost 50,000 users, which is just crazy to me. But just knowing that it was helping others in my situation that I experienced, I mean, that was plenty. That was all my work would be worth it then. So I definitely think it helped kind of my coping and making what would be a hard diagnosis that would be really hard time in my life, making that into a positive time of memories and learning and really making an impact.
Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, where our goal is to keep you informed, inspired, and a little entertained on all things diabetes. The information contained in this program is based on the experience and opinions of the Integrated Diabetes Services clinical team. Please discuss any changes to your treatment plan with your personal healthcare provider before implementing.
Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast. I'm your host, Gary Scheiner, owner and clinical director of Integrated Diabetes Services. Today's topic is when the going gets tough, the tough get inventing. This is actually the story behind the T1D1 app, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Drew Mendelow. Now, when you think about a teenager, what comes to mind? Most people think about someone who's playing endless hours of video games, has a snarly attitude, empty bags of Cheetos all around them, and doesn't have a whole lot of ambition. Well, that does not describe Drew Mendelow. He takes all those preconceptions about teenagers and just blows them to hell because he is one motivated individual. So I want to welcome the pride of Gaithersburg, Maryland, and the developer of the T1D1 app, Drew Mendelow. Hey, Drew, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, super excited to be here. I guess a quick bit about myself is I'm a freshman at Georgia Tech, and I've always played soccer. I've played since I was like 4 years old. That's kind of been something I love to do. That's how I get all my anger out. That's how I make new friends. But also, once I got to like middle school, I started exploring coding, and that's kind of been my second passion. I've done a bunch of little mini projects, like making little websites so I can see my grades better and change assignments and whatnot. But T1D1's kind of been my baby when I was diagnosed, and we'll go into that, obviously. That's what I really used my technology passion for. And now in college, I'm just kind of branching out and exploring new things. I'm in the Yellow Jacket space program at Georgia Tech, which is a completely new experience for me. I mean, I only joined because my roommate, he's an aerospace major, so that's kind of his area. And he was like, you should join to see what it's about. So I was like, why not? And now we're literally launching a rocket in 4 days, which is insane.
Not bad.
So yeah, so I'm really excited to be here, and I'm just kind of expanding and exploring my interests in the tech space.
Neat. When I was your age and younger, I played every sport there was and never, ever played soccer. My friends and I would go out of our way. We would invent games to avoid playing soccer. But as I got older and had kids of my own, they loved soccer. So I learned about the game, actually became like an assistant coach on my oldest daughter's travel team. What position do you usually play in soccer?
I was an outside back, so in the back in defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Yes,
I
you
love
take a lot of
soccer.
pride in pitching a shutout.
Yeah. I mean, I've literally played soccer my whole life. I almost can't imagine myself without it. Even at Georgia Tech, we play like every night just for fun with my friends. It's awesome.
Nice. I feel that way about hoops. I'm a still play basketball multiple times a week, and even at my advanced age, I love to get out there and run up and down the court. The coding thing is neat too. I think when you mentioned about fixing your own grades, I'm a big Simpsons fan. I remember when Homer went to college and he roomed with a bunch of nerds, and their one saving grace is that they could use their computer to change his grades. And boy, did he get along great with them. What inspired you to develop the T1D?
Yeah, so it all kind of started when I was diagnosed myself with type 1. That whole story started 5 years ago. I was 13 at the time, and this was during the COVID times. Actually, the summer before I was diagnosed. So I was diagnosed in September of 2020. Over that summer is when I started my coding interest. I started making video games. So I was a big gamer. So I was like, why not try to make my own? That would be fun. So I dabbled a bit with coding then. And then when I was diagnosed in that September, that's when I had some tech experience. And actually in the hospital where I was diagnosed, I saw there was no app out there that was just free and helping calculate insulin. So I was like, why not do it myself? And I guess really quickly to say my actual like diagnosis story. The reason I went to the doctors in the first place was I lost like 10 pounds, and I was on my growth spurt. So that was pretty unusual. And then I was drinking a lot of water and peeing a lot more throughout the day, pretty much the normal symptoms that you'd hear.
Uh-huh.
But I really didn't think much of it at the time. I was playing a lot of soccer that summer. So I was like, it makes sense to me to drink more water because I'm playing a lot more and I'm peeing more because I'm drinking more. So it kind of made sense. But I did go to the doctors and that's when they rushed me to the hospital.
Sounds
So
all too familiar. Same for
yeah,
me. I was 18, but exact same thing. I was
yeah.
peeing constantly, thirsty and drinking constantly
Hmm.
and losing tons of weight. I lost about 30 pounds
Oh
before I
wow.
finally got to the doctor and was diagnosed.
Oh wow, that must have been scary.
Well, yeah, I mean, just having lost all that much weight, I actually learned about what the symptoms meant from watching a TV show. So, see,
Oh my God,
TV
that's
saved
wild.
me. It's a
There you
good
go.
thing. All right. So video games you were passionate about. What games do you like now? What's
Yes.
your favorite?
My main game is Rocket League. It's like car soccer pretty much. You're driving a car and you're playing soccer against other cars.
Mhm.
But I don't really play as much anymore. Once I started college and throughout the end of high school, I had to slow down and focus a bit more on studying and T1D1 really. But that was my big game for sure. I played that every day.
Okay, nice. Do you
Yeah.
see any room for gamification in the way we manage diabetes nowadays?
I know the app that Sam Glassenberg created, the Level X, I believe. I tried that app out. It was amazing. I mean, it was super well made. It really explains everything, especially when you're newly diagnosed. I think that's a perfect gamified experience. But in terms of for me gamifying stuff, I haven't really touched much of like gamifying things in the diabetes space, but that could be something I look towards in the future. I think that would be pretty interesting, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the T1D1 app, it's not about gamification, it's about function and just making living with diabetes easier. So, can you explain a bit about how it works?
Yeah, sure. So when I first designed the app, my whole goal and mission while creating it was first to keep it completely free without any ads because I wanted to remove barriers to care instead of, create more. So that was a big one. But then also to keep it very simple. So I wanted kids of all ages or even people of the older generation to easily use this app without being overwhelmed or confused. So simplicity was huge for me. But the main functions in the app is to allow you to calculate how much insulin you need to take, and this is for people on MDI. So calculate and then track all that data very easily, and then also be able to send it to whoever your doctors and medical providers, and then all that while using your customized settings. So your target, correction factor, and carb ratio. So the basic idea is you enter the settings, and then whenever you need to give yourself insulin, you just enter how much carbs you're eating, if you are eating any, and your current blood sugar, and it'll tell you how much you need to give yourself. So
Uh-huh.
it's again, it's a very simple app. It's not like groundbreaking insulin on board, AI algorithms here. But it was a need that I saw when I was diagnosed. And even as a 13-year-old, I thought there has to be some kind of app for this. And so I was like, why not create it myself? So that's kind of the whole idea of the app.
Yeah, I love that. What was the process like from having this idea about an app that helps with those calculations, from having the idea to actually being able to go into the app store and install this thing? What were the steps like?
Yeah, so first, the day I got home from the hospital from being diagnosed, literally the next day, that's when I started working on the app. So
Huh?
I messed around. I joked with the doctor in the hospital that I'd create my own app because of my video game coding experience. But I mean, I really didn't see the whole vision then. It was more just like kind of as a joke. And when I went home, I started messing around a bit with apps because I really didn't know how to code apps either. It was all pretty new to me. It is like a fully different language, so it doesn't really translate too well with video games. But I literally went home, I started messing around, I made a basic calculator, and I was like, I think I could really make this app. So literally every day, especially with online school, I had a lot of time on my hands. I was working hours every single day making this app, right? And then I would talk to my doctor at the hospital because I was newly diagnosed. I didn't really know what the app fully needed to. So that was another big hurdle for me. I was like, what's negative correction and what's insulin on board? Like I didn't even know these terms and I was
Right.
supposed to be creating this app. So it was a pretty cool experience for me. I would, go to my online classes and then just instantly start working again on my app. I would talk to my doctor, give her like beta versions, but eventually, after a month and a half, I had a fully working app that was approved, I guess, like testing wise for my doctor, not like FDA approved yet. And with all the new features that she asked and some other beta testers that I found online, they gave little feedback and asking for some features. So it was a cool, like, grassroots project for me. I got to, one, learn how to make apps, but also understand the disease better, understand these new like terms and understand how I can manage my own diabetes better. I really did learn a lot that I definitely would not have learned without making this app.
Emotionally, do you feel that it helped you cope with the diagnosis better?
For sure. For sure. I mean, just knowing that this app could potentially even just make one person's life easier, that was enough for me. I mean, when I first like released the app publicly, my original goal was 100 users, and now the app has almost 50,000 users, which is just crazy to me. But just knowing that it was helping others in my situation that I experienced, I mean, that was plenty. That was all my work would be worth it then. So I definitely think it helped kind of my coping and making what would be a hard diagnosis that would be really hard time in my life, making that into a positive time of memories and learning and really making an impact.
I think the coping aspect can't be underestimated because I know when I was diagnosed and learned about all the long-term health effects, and it made me sick to my stomach thinking about how unhealthy diabetes could make me. And I really took it upon myself to get in the best shape of my life. And I started working out constantly and developed a serious passion for fitness and sports and exercise that even above where I was going into it. And we all need ways of coping with these kind of challenges and stresses. But hey, it's really cool that, I mean, the day after your diagnosis, you were designing an app that would help people manage it better. I was trying to find where peanut butter was on the exchange list. It's just amazing how far we've come and how much more that you can accomplish now so soon after the diagnosis took place. I took this marketing class in college, and the professor would walk in every day. At the beginning of class, he'd slam his fist on the table. In this deep voice, he'd say, "Marketing is meeting buyer needs." And I never forgot that because when you hear it 50 times, it's kind of sticks. How do you feel that the T1D1 app is meeting a need?
So the T1D1 app, my whole philosophy with it is to just make your life a little easier. So it's not gonna, cure your diabetes. It's gonna help you manage it. It's gonna take some stress and anxiety off you. It's gonna make you less overwhelmed, and especially when you're newly diagnosed. So right when you're newly diagnosed, I mean, for me personally, I had an Excel spreadsheet. I was handwriting math, tracking it all in an Excel spreadsheet, and my hospital had me literally call into voicemail every single morning telling them my numbers for the last day, which was just insane to me. I mean, this was only 5 years ago.
Mhm.
The technology is a lot more advanced than that system. So T1D1's really just there to put everything in a very simple, accessible app to just help you manage your diabetes and just really take one thing off your plate, especially with all this other stuff you have to manage with getting supplies and just overall managing your numbers throughout the day in school, at soccer practice. This really is just a lot. It really does change your whole life. And so just making one aspect easier in any way possible was my goal with T1D1.
Yeah, I love the fact that you can customize within the app. You can have different dosing formulas for breakfast, lunch, snacks, and dinner. And then you can also create custom ones. So, for example, if you're going to play soccer in the afternoon, you might need a different dose for lunch or for your afternoon snack. And you can have that programmed in there. So when you go to calculate a dose, you select the situation. And to me, that's really valuable is the ability to customize because everyone's life is different and unique and things change from day to day. It's not like we're eating the same lunch and sleeping and exercising and doing the same things at the same times every day. Customization to me is really a valuable thing. Did you get any pushback from the FDA when you submitted this for approval? Because you had to go through this entire process like a big pharma or device manufacturer does to get approval on this thing. What was that like for you?
Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, is brought to you by Integrated Diabetes Services, where experience meets expertise, passion meets compassion, and diabetes care is personal because we live it too. Our team of clinicians, all living with type 1 diabetes, understands the challenges firsthand. We're here to help no matter where you are in the world. From glucose management to self-care strategies, the latest tech, sports and exercise, weight loss, type 1 pregnancy, and emotional well-being, we've got you covered. We offer consultations in English and Spanish via phone, video chat, email, and text. Want to learn more? Visit integrateddiabetes.com or email info@integrateddiabetes.com to schedule a consultation.
Yeah, FDA approval was by far the biggest challenge. Looking back on it now, so when I originally released it, I didn't realize it needed FDA. I was 13 at the time, I was just kind of releasing it. I knew you weren't actually giving yourself the insulin through the app, so I thought it would be fine. But looking back on it, I think it does make sense that a 13-year-old probably shouldn't be recommending insulin to people. But then I was approached from Apple saying that it needed FDA clearance, and that's when it was taken down from the App Store. So that was a big hurdle in the whole process. I mean, me and my parents, we tried to start making documentation ourselves. I mean, it's insane the amount of documentation you need. We realized very quickly that we needed some experts with this.
What thoughts ran through your head, or what curse words ran through your head when you got that message from Apple? This thing's got to go through the FDA. We can't post it like this. How did you feel?
Yeah, it was definitely heartbreaking because I mean I was just trying to release this for free. I wasn't making any benefit off this. I wasn't financially at least. I was just really trying to release this tool to the public and taking it down and knowing that even pushing through and even getting the FDA approval, it would just take a long time, which it did. It was pretty heartbreaking,
How
but
long did it take?
it took about 4.5 years to
Oh
fully
my
get cleared,
goodness. And
which
so
was crazy.
you estimate how many hours of work did you have to put in just to get it approved by the FDA?
Uh, I mean, it was countless. I worked. So I guess to give you a preface, I networked like crazy to get some help. I eventually entered a competition out in Switzerland at the Diabetes Center of Bern, and I didn't end up winning, but they were very inspired by my story, and they offered to fully fund the process. They connected me with another team in Switzerland, which was their name was Comerge, and they were the ones who actually helped me fully rebuild the app and make the documentation. So I worked with that team for over around 3 years, and I worked and I fully rebuilt the app with them. I literally, not this last summer, but the summer before, I went to Switzerland in person and worked throughout the entire summer, like a full 9 to 5 job. I
Wow.
mean, it was crazy. I worked previously before that for the last couple of years online before school. Due to the time difference, I would have a call at like 6 a.m. and then I would just go to high school, and my teacher would get mad because I was 5 minutes late to algebra 2. And I'm like, I was on a call with Switzerland. But I mean, it was endless work. I had to fully rebuild the app from scratch in a completely new language, to be up to FDA standards. And then the regulatory team at Comerage had to make hundreds of pages of documents. And then I had to run a human factors study, which is just to prove that the app is safe to use over the counter, since it's the first over the counter app. So it was really a lot of work. And looking back on it now, it's really crazy to say that it's fully FDA cleared, but there was just so much I didn't really know going into it. Where
Yeah.
I always kind of say now that if I knew all the steps that it would take to get this out there, I don't know if I would have started originally when I was 13. But that's kind of how all startups start, I think.
I mean, the FDA plays a pretty vital role. I mean, they definitely ensure that things that are available for health purposes are safe, and it's important. It protects the
Yeah,
public. In some cases, though, it goes to an extreme, especially with the kind of medical devices that we use in diabetes treatment. They complain about how expensive things are, but that's why it costs a fortune for companies to do the R&D required to get things approved by the FDA. And in most cases, a lot of like doing the human factors trials, for example, probably did not need to do that, but it's a time consuming, costly, lengthy process.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Did you
It
do
really
that
is a
human
lot.
factors trial yourself, or did Burn administer that for you?
So for that, I didn't have enough money for that. That was over 100,000 minimum to get it done. And I actually reached out to Dexcom and they offered to run it fully in-house for free to me, which was amazing. So they fully ran that study. And we were, working with them closely and they ran the study in San Diego and a couple other cities to get
Mhm.
the right participants for it. But that was the last step needed before I could officially submit to the FDA, which
Mhm.
was really insane. But what I will say about the FDA is, this whole process did take really long. And I've heard stories about once you actually submit that it would just take forever. And it really was super quick. They were surprisingly awesome. They did not live up to the stereotype, I would say, of how the FDA is portrayed.
Mhm.
Once I submitted, it came back in a couple weeks. Like they cleared it in a couple weeks, which is really
Mhm.
insane. And they would answer questions. If we had like a small question, they would answer it unofficially through email instead of going through this whole process to set up a meeting. They were actually really cooperative. They love what we were doing. They really understand, which was really like surprising me. I'd never thought of that at the beginning. But yeah, it was definitely a long overall process to get everything needed for the FDA clearance.
I'm glad they were helpful and supportive of what you were doing. And you mentioned Dexcom. Do you use a CGM yourself?
Yes, I use Dexcom. The G.
Okay. Have you tried the 15-day version yet?
I have not. I'm very excited to though. I just
Mhm.
saw it like officially released a couple of days ago, a week ago. And yeah, I'm gonna order that as soon as possible.
Okay. So are you still on MDI?
No, so I have a Tandem T Slim right now, but I was on MDI after I was diagnosed for around 6 months. My grandma, who's also type 1, right when I was diagnosed, she was kind of my support, saying like right from the beginning, get on Dexcom as quick as possible and try to push for an insulin pump as quick as possible with
Uh-huh.
insurance. She was telling me like very quickly to try to get on that insulin pump. So funny enough, I actually don't need the T1D1 app now, which is
Yeah.
pretty funny.
I was thinking about that. The majority of my patients and me and my staff, we're all using pumps and open or automated insulin delivery systems. But I was thinking about it. I had a pump failure a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't get in even to see what my settings were. And
Oh wow.
I didn't have a clue what my carb ratios were. So having an app like T1D1 as a backup in the event I have
Hmm.
to go back on injections temporarily, that would be really helpful. So I think pump users could benefit from this just as much as people on MDI. They may not use it as often, but it's still something that they should have on their phones, just as a
Yeah.
back. That'd be
Yeah,
smart.
for sure. Me personally, I have completely shattered my pump 2 different times playing soccer, and it was like a tournament like halfway across the country. I live in
Uh-huh.
Maryland, and I went to Florida to play a tournament and just completely shattered it. Couldn't even turn it on. Um, and so just situations like that, you're exactly right. I've heard stories of people either, having a failure with a pump or just deciding they wanna go on a pump break
Uh,
for whatever, a couple months. And the app is just kind of perfect in that scenario. It really is just a backup for you if you need it. And again, that's my goal. It's there if you need it. And if you don't, that's great. If you can manage your diabetes without it using a pump, that's
sure.
fine. But it
Yeah.
really is there as a backup option and just to make you feel, remove some anxiety and just kind of let you live your life.
Yeah.
That's really the goal.
Do you have plans to make any updates? So, for example, to have CGM data populate in the dose calculation field?
Yeah, so my current main focus with the app is one, spreading the word, but also expanding into other countries. So right now it's FDA approved or FDA cleared, sorry. So it's only in the US. So I'm really working on getting it into other countries where MDI is almost all of the people with type 1 there. So for example, Pakistan is a huge one I'm looking at right now, but other places like India and some places in South America could really benefit from this app. So
Mhm.
that's one of my main focuses, along with translating it in other languages.
Sure.
And I'm really just trying to remove as many barriers as possible. But
Yeah.
integrating with the CGM, I have obviously been looking at that for a while now, and I actually found out that it would require almost a whole like new type of FDA submission. So in this near future, I would really love to. It really seems like it should be in the app, but in this near future, it probably won't happen soon. But that is definitely something I'm looking at in the future.
If you need any help with the translation, one of our clinicians is a bilingual health language translator so she could do all the Spanish stuff for you if you need help.
Yeah,
I'll,
that would
vol-
be awesome.
I'll volunteer her for that. She'll love me telling.
That would be awesome. Yeah, it's a lot better than using Google Translate for medical terms.
Oh, yeah. What about the concept of insulin on board? You mentioned that earlier. Right now, it'll give you a warning if you took insulin recently. But as far as calculating insulin on board, is that something you've thought about incorporating into the app?
Yeah, that's something I've gotten feedback from the very beginning, really. And really this whole time that I've been developing T1D1, I've been getting a lot of feedback from users. I always ask for feedback. But I have to go in this fine line of, will this new feature, improve the experience, but still keep it simple. So really keeping it simple was one of the main factors that I wanted to make sure T1D. And so it's been really hard for me to rule out some features like insulin on board, just to really keep it simple from the beginning. I felt that it would overcomplicate the app a bit, especially when you're newly diagnosed and you're just downloading this app. You just learned what all these new terms are, and now you have to worry about insulin on board, and it really is just a lot. So for now, at least, I decided to keep insulin on board out just to simplify the whole experience.
I love that concept. Keep it simple, stupid, right? That helps. Besides calculating insulin doses at meals, and there's a lot of math involved in doing that. Where else do you see needs in the type 1 diabetes space? Whether it's involving insulin therapy, dosage adjustments, monitoring glucose, or just living with this disease day in and day out. What do you see as some of the unmet needs?
I think personally, I've seen a lot of focus on making this the cure for type 1 and research for that, which I think is awesome. But I think really focusing on where we are now and improving the technology that we have now and improving really just the basic needs of people living with type 1 now, I think that should be number one priority and is the most important. Like there are places in third world countries where people, don't have access to any insulin at all, or even access to education, which is a huge piece as well. And so that's kind of, I guess, the one of the reasons that I'm making T1D1, just to give them sort of education and a tool that they need. But I think that should be more of the focus than the cure, which is great to find a cure. But I think, there are places where the mortality rate is very high, which is super shocking and very concerning. I think that should be almost the main focus.
Yeah, where they don't even have the tools and to stay alive. It's not a matter of managing optimally, it's just staying
Hmm.
alive. And they can't even access insulin or the way to deliver it or how to check their blood sugars. That stuff's missing in a lot of parts of the world. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
No, our practice, we do a lot of work for people who are underserved and trying to teach them and help them manage their diabetes better. We do, obviously work with advanced people as well, but we allocate a certain proportion of our service to underserved people to make sure they have access to what they need. But our nurse's office is just stuffed full of supplies people need,
Oh yeah.
different kinds of diabetes supplies. We're like a clearinghouse. People who have extra, they donate it to us and we'll ship it anywhere that it's needed.
That's
Just
awesome.
just kind of a way of giving back. What are your future plans once you're done with the Ramblin' Wreck at Georgia Tech? What are you hoping to do?
Well, honestly, I'm a freshman right now. I don't have like everything fully lined up of exactly a job I want to do. I am actually going into a co-op, working at Abbott, not in the
Huh.
diabetes space, but I am working at Abbott, which is really exciting. But all my work has mainly been in app development, which I do really enjoy. It's very interesting to me. But I know in terms of computer science in general, there's so much other stuff to explore, like AI, websites, even hardware actually that I've never touched before, making physical machines and other things. And I really am just kind of trying to explore all my options. Like I mentioned before, I'm at the space program, which is completely new to me. They're just throwing terms at me that I've just never heard before. I'm in the Georgia Tech iOS club for making different apps. So that's been really fun for me. And I really am just kind of exploring and seeing what interests stick with me. And in the future, I'll definitely go along that path, and it
Uh-huh.
may not be in the healthcare space. I really do enjoy the healthcare space. The co-op that I mentioned is in a healthcare area, but I'm not really sure what I want to do in the future fully. I'm still kind of touching around.
Well, as somebody who lives with type 1 and works at my full-time profession, yeah, it can be a bit of a strain. So finding work outside of diabetes is not such a bad idea. I don't want to discourage you because we need good minds in this space, but for your own sanity, it might be nice to have other areas of interest. So how can people learn? One of the question, what are your favorite apps outside of your own?
Um, I I mean, I think I would have to say the Tandem T Connect app just from bolusing from my phone. But besides that, I think GlucoSense. I don't know if you heard of GlucoSense. That is an amazing app. I love that app. Is uh not fully, but there's a AI algorithm behind it that gives you trends. So it'll give you kind of a score for a day of 1 to 10. Not really to tell you, hey, you did really bad or hey, you did really good, but more of to show you the trend of I just went to school, my score lowered. Maybe I should look at changing my settings or doing something differently. It just really
Mhm.
helps you find trends.
What about
Um,
non-diabetes stuff? Any apps that
oh,
you
non-diabetes stuff at all? That's a great question. I mean, I use the reminders app every single day for
Mhm.
everything. Keeps me organized.
I'm on my ESPN app constantly. I'm kind of
Mhm.
sports obsessed, so I've got to do.
Yeah, the fantasy app as well.
If someone wants to learn more about the T1D1 app, where do they go?
T1D1.org has everything you need. There's a donation page if you feel very generous, but there's all the links for everything to download. And then in the App Store, Google Play Store, you can just search T1D1 and it'll show up there as well.
Terrific. Our podcast manager, Barb, will make sure that the show notes have all that information. So you can check out the Think Like a Pancreas podcast show notes and get that information as well. I guess some of my big take homes from our discussion, is that if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time coping with your diabetes, think about what you can invent. I mean, there's a way you can give back and take some ownership at the same time. I think that was a wonderful way for you to cope with your diagnosis and keep yourself fully engaged. And the whole concept of keeping it simple, I mean, there's a lot to learn from that as well. I'm as guilty as anyone. I tend to overcomplicate things and look into all the details far too much, but sometimes the simplest approaches work the best. Would you agree? Yeah.
For
All
sure.
right. So, Drew, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. And you are in Mexico vacationing with your family right now. And you took the time out for this. I'd be on the beach right now, man. I give you credit. You're very dedicated.
Of
Again, I'm
course.
Gary Scheiner, reminding everybody out there to keep thinking like a pancreas.
Thanks for tuning in to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. On behalf of Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, I'm Gary Scheiner, wishing you a fantastic week ahead. And don't forget to think like a pancreas.